Today we are driving the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer L Series 3, but as always, let me give you a brief tour of the car before we get it out on the road. The Wagoneer L is an extended full-sized SUV that is actually going to be discontinued for 2026. The key fob is pretty high quality and has Wagoneer branding on the back. You can also lower the air suspension and remote start the vehicle from the fob itself. Up front is Jeep's signature 7-slot grille and Wagoneer branding stamped onto the hood. There is functional ventilation at the bottom as well as some chrome trim, and the headlights are going to be fully LED. You don't get animations or anything fancy like that, but they do get the job done. Moving around to the side profile, you will find 22-inch wheels, and these do come with the premium group. These look really nice against the side of the car, and there's gloss black surrounding those wheels. There's also your Wagoneer badge and the American flag on the driver's door, and the mirrors are going to be finished in gloss black and have heating, blind spot monitoring, and auto dimming. For some weird reason, power folding is not available on the Wagoneer. The power running boards at the bottom make it very easy to get inside, especially because they extend so low, and taking a look at the side profile, you can see that this car kind of looks like a station wagon. The proportions are a bit odd, but you can see that this car is very long. The back wheels are going to be the exact same as the fronts, and each window is individually surrounded in gloss black. Taking a look at the rear end, it is pretty simple overall. It has a very boxy appearance from the back because it doesn't have a spoiler, and at the bottom you will find a gloss black finished bumper, your LED reverse light, and your LED taillights in the middle. There is Wagoneer branding spelled out across the back, and inside the trunk you will find an insane amount of trunk space. Behind the third row you will find 42.1 cubic feet of space. You will also find a power outlet on the right side and buttons to power fold down your third row and second row. When you fold down the third row, you will find 85.3 cubic feet of space, and as a maximum, you will find 131 cubic feet. The figure behind the third row is class-leading, but all of those numbers are insane. So if you can't fit something in the back of the Wagoneer L, you should probably get a cargo van. Let's go ahead and check out the rear seats next. By the way, I do want to mention that this car does have a standard hands-free power tailgate, which is a very nice touch. Opening up the rear door, the power running boards come down automatically, and the door panel is pretty simple. You get plenty of storage space at the bottom, a Macintosh speaker grill, and leather on your armrest. There is also a sunshade, which is a very important feature for families, and that is actually missing from the Suburban and Expedition Max. Third row access is very simple, just push that button and climb back there. Third row room is amazing in the Wagoneer L. The L model actually helps with that. You can also extend your leg through the middle because this car has captain's chairs. For amenities, you will find a plastic armrest, a cup holder, and a button to recline the seat. That feature is missing from the GM cars such as the Suburban and Yukon XL. You can also push these buttons in case you forgot to fold up the third row and somebody is about to sit back there. There is also a sunroof with a manual shade, but it does not open. This is a very nice touch though, and that is something that is usually reserved for luxury SUVs such as the BMW X7. Getting into the second row is very simple. You have the power running boards and this handle to assist you. In the second row of the Wagoneer, there is plenty of legroom and headroom. This is about the same as the third row, which is very surprising, and you also have this remote to control the entertainment system. In the middle, you will find your third zone of climate control, some vents, a cubby, and multiple power sources. There are so many ways to charge your devices in this vehicle, it is insane. Here's a little peek at the interior, and we're about to check that out next. The second row and the third row are amazing. There is plenty of space and plenty of amenities. Jeep definitely had the family in mind when they designed this Wagoneer L. Taking a look at the front door panel, you can see that there's a lot of wood trim at the top and plenty of storage space at the bottom. There's also 2-person memory seating, and taking a look at the seats, they are made of Napa leather and they have heating, ventilation, and 12 ways of power adjustments. The Wagoneer L is a very large SUV, but accessing the cabin is very easy thanks to the air suspension and power running boards. Let's go ahead and start it up. The steering wheel is going to be very nice leather wrapped and heated. It is pretty thick overall, especially here at the bottom, and I really like the wood trim. There is Wagoneer badging on the horn button instead of Jeep badging because Wagoneer is kind of a sub-brand of Jeep. You get blind spot cameras that turn on automatically when you turn on your turn signal, and the gauge cluster offers plenty of customization. The resolution is pretty good, and I really like the topography. That is a very nice touch. There is also a built-in map, and then you also have your off-road pages because after all, this is a Jeep. I like to keep it at this because it is pretty simple and straightforward. Your heated and ventilated seat controls are going to be located right here, and it is pretty convenient. It can be a little bit unresponsive at times. The main infotainment system is the latest Uconnect 5 software from Stellantis. It can lag at times, but mostly it is a pretty good system. You get plenty of customization, especially with those widgets right there, and most importantly, you will find built-in navigation, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as built-in Alexa and a Wi-Fi hotspot. You can also access many vehicle controls. You can fold down the headrest for better visibility, you can access your cameras, you can deploy the side step or bring it back in. You can also access the blind spot cameras. One thing I feel like they could have done is have a button to fold up or down the third row seats, because that is something the Suburban and Yukon XL have. The climate controls are physical buttons and toggles. You get dual zone up front and one zone in the rear. If you want to use the screen to control the climate, you can also do that by bringing up the comfort menu. As far as storage goes, under this gloss black piece, you will find a wireless phone charging pad, a little felt-lined cubby, a power outlet, and 6 USB ports. You have some controls right there like your auto parking system, and this gear shifter is made of real metal. It feels very high quality, and the cameras are pretty good resolution. You get active trajectory and multiple different angles. The resolution isn't quite on par with the Yukon XL and Suburban, but I feel like they're getting there. This toggle is for your air suspension, and this toggle is for your drive modes. The center console has 2 layers. You get the top part with 2 USB ports and felt lining, and the bottom part is absolutely massive. Under this piece of wood trim, you will find 2 cup holders, a phone holder, and a little cubby for your key fob. Up top, you will find a panoramic sunroof and a standard rearview mirror. Let's go ahead and wrap up this brief tour and get the Wagoneer L out on the road. Alright, we are driving the 2025 Jeep Wagoneer L Series 3. As always, we'll start off by talking about the specs. When this car was introduced back in 2021, they released this car with a 6.4-liter Hemi V8. Jeep is not currently offering this engine, so the Wagoneer L is powered by a Hurricane 3-liter twin-turbocharged inline 6-cylinder. That makes 420 horsepower and 468 pound-feet of torque. That is mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and this car gets 14 mpg in the city, 19 on the highway, and 16 combined. When the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer were introduced, they were notorious for having terrible fuel economy, and with the new 6-cylinder, that really hasn't changed. This new 6-cylinder is incredibly smooth. It is very quiet, very mellow in the background. Obviously, it doesn't have the V8 noise, but if you're just trying to relax, I think that is kind of a good thing. If you do want a V8 powered SUV, your only choices now are the Yukon XL and Suburban. The Grand Wagoneer has the same exact engine as this Wagoneer, but it does have 510 horsepower instead of 420. Still, this is plenty punchy, and we are going to be doing an acceleration test a little bit later in this video. For city driving, this car is pretty nice. Of course, it is very long at 227 inches long, but you actually don't really feel how big it is. Of course, you have to know the dimensions and you have to be a little bit more careful compared to a traditional car, but it isn't going to feel as cumbersome as something like the Yukon XL or Suburban. With those cars, you really know that you are driving a big car. The hood is really long, you can feel the size and weight, and parking is not so fun. This car, it parks itself, and that is a standard feature, and also, the turning radius is absolutely amazing. It's crazy that a car 227 inches long and 84 inches wide can turn around so tightly like that. Some things that are helpful for city driving are the blind spot cameras. They automatically turn on when you turn on your turn signal, and then also the mirrors are pretty large, and they also have a little fisheye thing so that you can easily see your blind spots. Of course, there's also blind spot monitoring, but you don't really need those things because the Wagoneer L's windows are so large. Alright, we are about to enter the highway, and getting onto the merging ramp, we did have to push in the gas a little bit farther than normal, and I have to say this car is pretty punchy. That wasn't our official acceleration test, but it was able to get a taste of how responsive this car's engine was. The Yukon XL and Suburban have a 6.2-liter V8 if you choose the higher trims, and while that has plenty of power as well, if you are in the lower RPMs and not in sport mode, it can be a little bit laggy. Now that we are on the highway, let's talk about the wind noise. There is a fair amount of wind noise entering the cabin, as you would expect, because this car is a pretty large vehicle and it is kind of a brick rolling down the road. The Wagoneer L does have an air suspension, so you do have an aerodynamic setting to make your fuel efficiency a little bit better and the wind noise a little bit quieter, but I have to say that compared to the competition like the Expedition Max and the Suburban, this is a lot quieter. This is about the same as the Grand Wagoneer I tested a few years ago. This car is also a very comfortable cruiser. The ride quality is great, and of course there is a ton of space on the inside, so road trips should be a piece of cake in this vehicle. You can also get a plethora of driver assistance features. Of course, you get adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and all of those features as standard equipment, but you can also purchase an extra package to get something like hands-free driving. So basically, it will work like adaptive cruise control, but the car will also steer for you when you are supervising it. With this package, you also get an auto lane changing feature, which is quite nice. I tested this out in the Grand Cherokee L Summit I reviewed a few months ago, so go ahead and check out that video if you want to know more about that. Alright, we are about to exit the highway so we can talk about some other aspects of this vehicle like the handling, transmission, and the braking. The brakes feel like they have a good amount of bite, although you can really feel the 6,000 pounds of this vehicle when you are under heavy braking. The brake pedal is pretty easy to modulate. You know exactly how much pressure you need to put in to get the best braking out of this vehicle, and I feel like you can brake pretty smoothly. That is important because it is always good for family vehicles to be comfortable. Changing lanes is relatively easy, although if you are in traffic, you will have to take into account the extra size of this vehicle. Compared to even the standard Wagoneer, it is a pretty big difference, being almost 230 inches long. But if you are used to a vehicle that is pretty large, there should be no problem at all. Let's see about the handling and acceleration next. So you can really see that this car has plenty of punch and it is very quick. This doesn't have 510 horsepower like the Grand Wagoneer, but I feel like this is all you need. As far as handling goes, as expected, it isn't that good. I don't expect it to be because of how long and how heavy this vehicle is, but at least it doesn't make you feel like you're about to flip over every time you take a turn. Just keep that in mind because there are some other SUVs that are a little bit shorter but have a lot better handling like the BMW X7 and Mercedes GLS. If you are going to be daily driving this car either on a commute or just driving your kids around, I think that this would be a pretty enjoyable vehicle. It is very comfortable, the engine is very smooth and plenty powerful, and then the creature comforts on the inside are great. You get heated and ventilated seats, very comfortable and plush Napa leather seats, and then you also have the good infotainment system that is very responsive and has a lot of great features. I wouldn't go as far to say that this is a luxury car, but it does come pretty close, especially with the general feeling of space in this cabin. But our test drive in this 2025 Jeep Wagoneer L Series 3 is coming to an end. Overall, I feel like this is a great vehicle. There are some things that are missing because there are things that have to be reserved for the Grand Wagoneer, but overall this is a great family car. There is tons of space, the creature comforts are great, especially in the second and third rows, and it's really too bad that Jeep is discontinuing this car. Would you buy this over the GMC Yukon XL Denali, Chevrolet Suburban High Country, or Ford Expedition Max Platinum? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.